Good morning. I hope everybody had a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year's. In most cases, depending on where you are today in a geographical region, bee season January 1 typically starts for the beekeeper. Our influx in people coming in, interested in having bees for the spring, it's common knowledge now in most cases that the honeybees will be available springtime, but you get your orders in early so that you secure those bees and you don't contact your supplier and they say, oh, sorry, we sold out a month ago. I get asked some pretty common questions from the new beginners who come in, and their first question typically is, hey, and how many colonies of bees should I start with? I've heard all kinds of different answers. My answer is a minimum of 2. We recommend that not because we sell bees, we recommend that because that ups your success of retaining colonies of bees. The more bees you have, the more bees you can make and stay in that numbers game, which is beekeeping 101. The more bees you have, the more bees, unfortunately, if you lose, you continue to have bees. You make that difference up, whether it's in the spring with swarms and you're trapping them or splitting those bees. That's what holds you in the beekeeping game. So 2 would be my answer to most everyone. Of course, the new beginner doesn't want to become overwhelmed with this, and that's easy to do too. I would never say, hey, get 6, get 8. That's not the case. Get what you feel comfortable with, but a minimum of 2. Next thing they want to know is, where do I pick up most of my knowledge to do this? I don't have a mentor. Well, a mentor's great. Obviously, if the guy next door is keeping bees and y'all have a good relationship, he's your guy. He's the one that you're going to feed from on his knowledge. We don't all have that option. So I would recommend to people, if there is a club close by you in the area. Here in Russellville, we have River Valley Beekeeping Association, a local group that gets together. It is the beginner to the professional beekeeper involved in the club. New folks come in, the older folks, and I'm not talking about age, I'm talking about just the simple fact that someone who has been at it 20 years, 15 years, even 10 years, they all have something to give to these new beginners. It's going to save them time, save them money, and save them heartache. That means a lot. We always recommend educational books. The great thing about a book is they have it in their possession. They own it. They read a part, they mark it as highlighted. This was something I did that worked very well. I'm going to try to retain this and remember. And then they get into the next season and they think, what'd I do? What'd I read in that book? You pick that book up, it's in your hand, you open it, you've highlighted it. YouTube is a great place to pick up information. It really is. There are lots and lots of YouTube channels, mine and many others. I have watched a lot of YouTube on keeping bees. The methods, the procedures in doing every aspect of keeping bees. The information is solid. Just make sure that information fits your needs. If you're a hobbyist, you want to watch hobbyist beekeeping. If you're a commercial guy, you may not be interested in any of it. It is all very interesting. There's something to be taken from each and every one of these guys who are putting out a YouTube channel. It's, not only is it entertaining and wonderful to watch and gather this information, keep things in front of you that help you down the road with your beekeeping experience. Always remember, it's geographical. It's what's close to you that is probably going to work the best for you. Start simple, keep it simple. Don't jump in there first year and decide that you need to make 2 colonies into 8. I'm not saying you can't do it, but I'm saying you can set yourself up for some failures that can sway you as to whether or not you want to be a beekeeper. Beekeeping's easy, it's fun, there's no rules. Everyone does it differently. I have found that there is no right, no wrong answer. The biggest thing is stay focused with it and get information that you trust and believe in, and follow that along. So moving into equipment questions, I get asked a lot, okay, so I understand what you've told me about mentors and information and books and YouTube. What do I do about my equipment? What boxes do I start with? That there again, we're going to get into some choices. So if you hear Langstroth hives, that can be in 10 frame, such as this one that we have in the floor. It can be in 8 frame. You're going to hear about top bar hives. You're going to hear about Langstroth long hives. Each and every one share components that are similar, but they're also different. A super is not a super. So you have deeps, mids, and shallows. You have varieties. For each super that you have frames that specifically fit those supers. You can't put you can put a small shallow frame in a mid. You can put it in a large. What you get with excessive space in a bee colony is burr comb, wild comb. They build their own comb in these spaces that's vacant of workable space. They turn it into usable space. They're very good at doing exactly what you don't want them to do, so don't give them that opportunity. So we have 10 frame equipment, which I still believe to be the standard. 10 frame boxes consist of a bottom board. There's about 7 choices on those. They consist of the supers, whether or not those supers are 2 deeps or a stack of mediums. There's people who they standardize. So if they run all medium supers, they have all the same frames. What that does bring in return is a lot of down stacking to do your hive inspections. Now you can make a lot of steps easier. You can make a lot of steps harder. That's why we're doing this YouTube this morning, just to kind of give you an insight into how many choices, varieties, and variations of this. That's why there's no right, no wrong, but you need to make the choice that fits your personality, your stature, your abilities, inabilities. You want these things to make sense for you individually. A long hive, such as this, if you've watched very much of my YouTube, you saw me install bees in these. I'm new to this. I have always been a 10 frame guy in standard equipment. This is not your standard equipment. This is going to bring some new challenges. If you like to challenge yourself, this may be the way you want to go. I've got bees in mine right now. I love it. I think it's going to be a great thing. That's yet to be seen, but we will see it, and y'all will see it as well. As you can tell over here, there are vast array of equipment. We're talking about bottom boards. I can stand here and count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different styles. Everything ranging from a solid to a screen. People are going to say, okay, do I need a solid board? Do I need a screen bottom board? There's people who own both. They put the screen in, run it over the spring and summer. They take them out in the fall, they put in the solids. Our winners need to dictate how you run your colonies, in my opinion. Screen bottom boards obviously give the bees more airflow. It was thought that they reduce the bees' mite load, and it may very well work that way. I'm not going to turn this into a pest management, but those are some of the things you think about when you're choosing your equipment. So whether you're running a stack of mids, 2 deeps, then mediums for your honey supers, or shallows for your honey supers, it's all things that you have to decide on your own. That goes back to having a mentor, having a club, having YouTube, a good book. Most all of this stuff will be explained to you before you spend your hard-earned money and get home with it and go, made a mistake, shouldn't have bought this to do this particular application. And trust me, there are hundreds of applications for feeding, housing bees, manipulating hives, starting out small, going large. When you walk through the store, you know you're going to see other components. You're going to see things you may just want, things you want to try. As a novice, you don't want to run in here and pick up a pollen trap right off to start collecting pollen from your first year's bees. I'm not saying you can't do it. I'm saying don't overload your cart with things that have been proven, things that work, but concentrate on the basics for you guys and gals that are just getting started. Keep it simple. That's my mentality, is to stay simple. When you walk in here and you look at the vast array of components, boxes, nukes, supers, you know, the choices just continually grow on you. Wired wax foundation, that was kind of the start, the beginnings of this. It comes more entailed. Now you're busting off a little strip of wood to anchor the hooks that's on the wired wax foundation. You can do no foundation frames. It goes on and on with the foundation and the frame. So you have wired wax foundation, you have plastic beeswax coated foundation, a groove top frame, a wedge top frame. Some of this stuff is interchangeable, some of it is not. Have your mind made up. One helpful tip that's helped me when choosing what foundation and frame to use in a colony of bees. Okay, I'm purchasing a nucleus of bees. What were those bees raised on? What are they used to? Were they raised on wired wax foundation, or were they raised on plastic foundation? Was that plastic foundation a full plastic frame, or was it a wood frame, plastic beeswax coated foundation? It makes a difference. You take this bee from their element, you put them in a new surrounding that now they're mixed. It causes some problems for you and the bees. 8 frame equipment. Naturally, you're talking about dropping 2 frames. Well, by doing that, you're reducing weight. The box gets narrower. These boxes are a whole lot easier to handle. Most people who go 8 frame start with 2 deep boxes for their brood chamber due to the confined now space. You don't have that extra run to run those bees spread out and get more brood, so you give them the space vertically. And then it's the same thing as running 10 frame Langstroth equipment. It's still the same basic rules apply for bee space. You move on till you see top bar. Okay, I think I want a top bar hive. Well, no problems. You can have a top bar hive. Understand that it brings an entirely new world also, with its own challenges and understandings of the equipment. Just a real quick view into this. It's built like a feed trough or a manger. Your bees are expected to pull a natural comb from a starter a starting position, which is this V piece of wood, be coated with wax. These bees would pull their comb naturally like that, basically to fit the formation of their hive. A follower board, you follow their progress. You put bees in here, you don't give them more space than they need, because naturally, like they can do in any situation, they can build any way they feel fit to do so. This is a very hands-on, constant process for a little bit, making sure your bees get started correctly and not making you double your work. So basically what we've done is we've covered 10 frame, we've looked at a long hive, we have talked about 8 frame equipment, top bar equipment, we've talked about frames and foundation. Going back to education, I still feel like as the beginner, that is your #1 tool getting started. You can't learn enough, and the great thing with beekeeping, the challenging part is there is never a stopping point on the education that comes with this. You will learn every year, possibly every time that you're in the bee yard. It holds your focus like no other hobby that I have personally ever had. Protective gear for the new and for the professional. We all wear it. I recommend it. In time, you'll learn when you can and cannot get away with being completely suited out. There's always a need for it, and there should always be a thought at the beginning of a work day in the bees. They could be grumpy today. I could get out here and get stung up. It's not worth me going just to find out. Protective gear range from a suit down to just a veil. Gloves are optional. Tooling. There are musts in the beekeeping world that have always been a standard that we're always going to have. We should always have available to us. With that, I mean a hive tool, a smoker. You know, I have personally become very accustomed to having a frame perch. That's my extra set of hands if I'm working alone, if I have someone else with me to hold and grab, and then, you know, it's not a necessity. You will always need a hive tool. You will always need a smoker. Those are 2 things that are a constant that should be in your arsenal. There are perks and benefits to all kinds of tools, clothing. It goes on and on. Feeders, my goodness, when you get started, you have options to feed that are absolutely unreal. Hive top feeders, frame feeders, front entrance feeders. For wintertime feed, you can make your own feed. You can purchase the feed ready to go. Simplify what you do until you find your niche, your groove that you want to keep your bees in. Keep it simple. Stay focused on the fact that my bee colonies are not necessarily honey producing. I want them to stay healthy, happy, and alive. I want to get them through their winters. I want them to expand and grow, and with that, that's on you. You know, once you put them in a box, now you're keeping bees. They're being kept by your choice. Just like putting cattle out in a field, you wouldn't do that without a pond with water in it. You won't do that when there's no grass. If there's no grass, you're going to give them hay. If you'll kind of look at bees as a livestock, and in most cases you can cross that over. Okay, well, I do this with my cattle, why wouldn't I do this with my bees? It's just a different scale. If you have questions or comments, I want you to please send them in to me. Emails, comment on the YouTube, on the Facebook. You can get a hold of us here at the store. If you have questions, please ask them. That's how you learn. That's what makes this journey doable for y'all. Check us out online. Give us a look on YouTube. Hit that subscribe bell if you will. We thank you for watching. We hope everything we do aids you in your quest to keep bees. We appreciate y'all. Until we see you again, roll that beautiful bee footage. Thanks for watching.